Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the debate. John is not in yet. I sent him an invite. If some of you were here earlier this morning, you saw when I had to do like several tests. A couple of you were nice enough to come in and help me. I appreciate that. I'm going to give everyone a little bit of time to come in, I guess, while we wait for John. And I'll post this link on Facebook. I even did have a short call with John before he came in, before we started this, so he is certain to attend, so I guess I'll try and send him an invite again, because if anyone's going to come in this, feel free to let us know you're here. Hey, man, can you hear me?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you okay. We're already live. I went ahead and got started while waiting for you, so...
Okay.
All right, well, since you're here already, I'm going to go ahead and get things started.
You got a link to this thing?
Oh, yeah, I can send you a video link if you want. So, do you want me to send it to you through your Gmail or in the chat here?
Yeah, Gmail, chat, wherever.
Okay. So,
I have a friend who wants to
oh, yeah?
see the happenings. Yeah.
This will definitely be interesting because, I mean, you and I have talked, like I said, once or twice before. I feel like this will give better understanding as to where we both come from on this situation. So, to let everyone know who's here right now in the chat, as I've mentioned before in previous posts and whatnot, for some of you that are coming from Facebook, one of the grounds for this debate is that there is to be no discussion about John's wife or his ex known as Emily. There's going to be no questions regarding that, no talking about that. I have made it abundantly clear to a lot of you that everything that is going around about that is strictly rumor, nothing more, nothing less, and there has been no substantial evidence of it. So that's all I can clarify it as. I will give John the benefit of the doubt on that. And so with that in mind, everyone must know that we are not allowed to have that in the discussion. So, John, if you would like to start with an opening statement, the floor is yours, Senator.
I didn't really have one prepared.
Okay.
I'm just here to answer questions. That's why I was kind of confused why some of the people in the comments there were saying, "Oh, look out, UTF is going to try to pull a fast one on you." And really, I'm just here to answer your questions.
Right.
Really, it's like.
That's why I didn't really
I don't have a
respond to
statement.
too many.
Really.
Someone asked if I knew you personally, and again, we were friends on Facebook briefly, and I mean, we've had back and forths in the past. So, and I mean, you know, again, I was one of the many people who looked up to you back in that time period, between 2012 to 2015. So, understandably, but again,
ages ago.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So, I try to make this obviously a little bit as professional as possible for a cheap YouTube stream. So let's I posted the link. Everyone's getting in. Okay, let's I guess we'll go ahead and start with the more obvious question, because this is one that a lot of people have asked about. What is it about your old videos, honestly, that is you disavow? Would you say it's more political, or is it more personal, or because it's political,
Both.
it is personal?
Both. There are so many of those videos that I'd go through, and I would look at the way that I view the world today, and I figured there's just way too much stuff in those videos. Like if I were to go through and individually delete, because at one point I had like 1,200 videos, maybe something
I definitely
roundabout.
can't find that many, but
yeah, there's just so much that has changed about the way I view the world. I don't want to use the term "grew up" because people will go, "Oh, there he goes, trying to be superior again." But my stance is on the police, and I just to put it in a very, if I were to just put it all in like a big nutshell, I've moved way far to the left from where I was in say 2014, 2015 when I was making videos like not all cops are bad and talking about anti-feminist stuff and positioning myself as this anti-SJW, which I do not abide by any of that stuff anymore. And if people, if they found something in those videos and they related with them in some way, that's cool, that's fine. But they were my videos, and I didn't find any real reason to keep them up anymore. For the most part, I was proud of some of them, but I just changed a lot.
Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I understand to an extent about how like people's opinions and beliefs change over time. Obviously, to me, it just seemed like the way you approach it is a very harsh way, and like the way that you, especially, have said the way you disavow your videos is one thing, but the way you also like have disavowed some of your older fans in a way, it kind of reminded me of the way you used to criticize Muse Productions, because like. I specifically recall, I think it was in your top 10 douchebags of 2011, you listed Muse for like...
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, because I found
10 years ago.
Videos.
You can't... I don't know if you can take me to task for things I said 10 years ago.
I know, again, because you have changed your opinion about those kind of things. But that also does beg the question, though, is that one thing that you've also changed your mind on, or is it maybe something you still uphold to? Well, about like... the way that Muse disavowed his old fans, especially like with Blip and all
Muse disavowed his old fans by ditching them for another platform because he couldn't get paid. There's a bit of a difference there. He was pissed off at them. Muse was pissed off at his fans because they wouldn't go and watch his videos. He got really rot cunty about that fact, and he couldn't handle it. So I think that we got two different bowls of salad situation that didn't come out the way I wanted it to, but
one's fruit, so
sure. But yeah, regarding the way that so the fans who gravitated towards me because of the way that I viewed a certain thing politically, or because of I guess a lot of it does come down to politics in the end, really. It's like when my views started changing and theirs were stagnating, staying the same, which they're well within their rights to stay in whatever viewpoint they want, it does not necessarily mean that I have to come along for the ride. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have to keep them in whatever social circle that I had. Alienating people is something that I've sort of, you could call it alienating, you could call it turning my back, I guess. I think that a lot of these people felt a certain way about me that I didn't necessarily feel about them back, and they got a little bit, they took it maybe a little bit too personally. I really understand
that. I mean, again, honestly, I do feel like somewhat of the way that you have approached it, or at least in the way that you've messaged me, it does seem a lot harsher than what you're saying right now, because like before you talked about how like you were honestly glad that a lot of your older fans are done with you because of the way they were either moving to the right or they were centrists, and that's a little bit something I want to get into, because like now one thing I want to point out though is that I understand there are a lot of videos you definitely don't agree with, but surely there are some of them like from back then that you would agree with today, like your one supporting gay rights, talks about anxiety and suicide, sports, wrestling, etc. That was another thing that some people tended to look to you for from time to time. So but you did look in one goodbye video. I think this was about January.
Which one?
2020. Yeah, January 2020.
Oh dear.
The one with all text. There was no talking from you. You mentioned in that one that you feel you were previously a centrist back in that time, in your opinion. Like, I think you did say in one instance you were
By
centrist.
American standards, yeah, I would say so. Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like in a way though that is somewhat false because like I've mentioned to some people that there are a lot of instances in videos where you were still very loyally democratically left. Whether or not, that's obviously now up to interpretation of the.
Democratically left. Sorry to
Okay,
cut you off, but
see,
like, do you mean by like the Democratic Party left?
I would say so because, like, for example, like
Because
your
that's not
videos about
left.
when
That's
Obama
hardly
won the
left at all.
election,
Yeah.
or like you've talked about
I
Chris
don't care about
Christie, Bobby
Obama anymore.
Jindal, the Republican Tea
Right.
Party.
Yeah, that's the other, like I'm no longer a stand for Barack Obama either. So, you
Okay,
know,
so
that's
see, that's admittedly one thing about me, and this is how I've mentioned to you before, and I've told a lot of people this. I just refuse to politically label myself personally, and so I don't pay too much to the political grid as opposed to like what is where and where people stand. To me, the left usually is almost synonymous based on other people's context with democratic or libertarian, and yet I learned from a lot of people that they don't like liberals. Like I've got this one coworker who makes being left her whole personality as well, and she says she didn't like working for this one place because it was quote unquote too liberal. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? She says, I'm so left, I'm off the charts. And I'm just like, oh god, here we go. So
okay.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's my whole point because like the
When you
way.
live in Europe, left means something completely different, though.
Okay,
It's
so
largely this. Well, I can't even say largely the same, but there are so many. Just for example, here in Finland, there are so many different parties, and your party can be known as like the Social Democrats, but even the Social Democrats in this country have a lot of very like center ideology, or like the really far right party here, known as the Finns Party, Perussuomalaiset, and they're about as bad as it gets when it comes to like the right wing. But even they would be considered by American standards, them being like known as like the far right here by American standards, the way the Tea Party and that whole circus is played out, I think they would even be considered um, more center right rather than just right.
right, so but one thing I want to understand is what is it about a lot of people having this vendetta with centrists and the idea of centrism? Like,
Don't like
what?
them.
Yeah, but is there a reason for that? Like, do you honestly feel like they have to pick a side in a situation? Because I feel like it's more a
There's a
case by case
caveat.
matter.
Yeah.
So,
It's not that I don't like them personally. It's just that I have, and I think anybody who knew me for any longer than a few months or had me added on Facebook for any longer than a few months would know this, is that I have a very, very low threshold for how much bullshit that I can tolerate.
yeah.
To borrow from George Carlin a little bit. Um, so um, it's not that it's how I see them personally. Like, it's not that I think they're a total complete piece of shit, but when they start talking politically, and there's just really no progress in being a centrist. I believe in progress. I believe in policies that can move things forward. And when you sit there in the middle and you pretend, oh, I see things from all sides, and that makes well, so can I. But I still, and so can a right winger. So can anybody from any wing.
Right. I
Um,
mean, that was
you
one of
know,
the things I
doesn't
had.
necessarily. I just think a lot of them were really sententious about it. In it, like, oh, I'm in the middle, and that in a way makes me superior because I can see both sides. I can feel I can be friends with everybody, and that's just never been who. That's who I tried to be for a while on YouTube because I wanted to keep subscribers. But once I stopped giving a fuck about that, I just certain people did not fit my circle more or less anymore, and I just yeah,
Well, I mean,
what happened happened.
It feels to me like a lot of people are. They say that centrists are such indecisive people, and I don't really think that's the case though, because you know I asked this before when I did make that response to that goodbye video back in January last year. It was like, are judges in a court centrist because they hear two testimonies and then they choose a verdict? To me, that's not necessarily centrism.
It's their job. They're literally paid to do just that. You know, that's
and you know, the thing with me is that comparison. I have nothing against people who do choose a political party as long as they are willing to listen to other people's opinions. And to be honest, that does feel like something you kind of brush off if people don't agree politically with your ideals. And that's one of the things where I talk about people who are being left their personality, because they think that because someone chooses to be centrist and not entirely left, that they agree with all of the right, and especially like some of the worst aspects of the right. And I just don't necessarily think that's the case either, because like I think someone can be pro-abortion and pro-gun, or they could be pro-life and pro-LGBT, for example. Just mix and match issues like that. You know, because like I think the best example like that would be Mitch. Because he actually was one of those who occasionally argued for pro-life, and yet he was pro-LGBT, supposedly. But Mitch isn't exactly the brightest crayon in the box. So.
Okay.
But yeah, like, I feel like the way that specifically people that I've met with your harsh left political ideas, that they tend to really easily turn away from people who are centrists, because they feel like centrists are such boogeymen about like, oh, we can't get you to comrade into our cult, and so we don't want anything to do with you. You know, it's like they feel like that they're a lost cause.
Interesting.
So,
right.
And honestly, like, if I had to think of one YouTuber based on like from your older videos, if you think like people confuse you for like a centrist, honestly, someone like Chris Raygun is far more confused with being like right wing and centrist than you would have been when you did those videos before. Because, like, have you heard of Chris Raygun?
You're gonna have to refresh my memory. No.
So Chris Raygun is a guy, like, he's only got like 300 or so subs, but he's actually really funny to me. He explicitly states how he is left and why his opinions are left, but he's done songs like Ain't No Rest for the Triggered, Punchin' Nazi, those parody songs, and they got a lot of views, and people thought that because he made those kind of songs criticizing the left, that he actually was left, and yet, like, he was like, no, I'm not, sorry. And then, like, you know, people from the left don't want to deal with him because he does criticize their party. And he's like, I know you don't want me on your team, but you're stuck with me. So.
No, it's their right. You know, if somebody's standing outside my window and screaming and I don't want to hear it, I can close the window, you know.
I mean, yes,
like
and no, because
nobody has to, you know.
But people act like the left party is completely immune from some criticism.
What left party? There is no that there. Okay, I live in Europe now, so there are several left parties. Like, and here's the other thing: is that a lot of these people that I was dealing with,
I mean, I'm saying
a lot of these people I was dealing with in the U.S. never thought beyond their own borders, and you know, you have to specify. You can't just say left party. You know, if we're talking about a political spectrum, you have parties that are on the left, center, that sort of stuff. So
I'm just going to use the most of the
little bit more specific
grid as like the idea of this, because again, there's just a lot of them that tend to be very extremist and very totalitarian in a way, like very black and white,
like
about opinions.
About opinions. Okay, but everybody's got an opinion. Right,
yeah, and
so
does, but like
that's where it ends, is it not?
Where opinions need to be more, in a way, informed or more open-minded into making those decisions. Because
informed, I totally agree. Yeah, but
because like there are people who look way too closely at the big picture. So like if you hear the term, so like let's just say, for example, right, when I was really young and I was first told about abortion, and all I heard was killing babies. And I was like, oh, that's terrible. I don't want to support abortion like that. But when you go back and you look at the bigger picture of abortion, about how it's for health reasons for women, it's a body choice, how we shouldn't invade on that kind of thing, and all the reasons for pro-choice, then you want to say, oh, okay, that's more understandable. But I feel like with a lot of
understandable,
obviously, yes.
It's the woman's choice. Period. End of
Exactly.
discussion.
Yes.
It's all of the arguments that go against it, and I dealt with so much of this shit from people on my Facebook. That's where the conversation ends for me, and that's just
See, but I feel like
just
other
it.
people
It's the woman's choice.
If you cut it off like that, like they could say something
like what, like Jesus, like what you mentioned, baby killings. Like that's
okay,
what it all boils down to.
Let me tell
Really?
you this. I had a buddy of mine who was teaching a sermon at a church. I know that's the last thing you want to hear, but hear me out. He's actually one of those who really does turn heads. Like, people in the modern American conservative church do not like him because of his opinions. Like, he's very, very tolerant and even open-minded to, like, LGBT. And when he's mentioned with pro-life, he has said before that if we choose to say that we are pro-life, then we need to be more involved in the child's life than just saving the birth and then putting the child up for adoption. We need to actually be the ones to adopt, to be involved with that child, to actually provide for the mother and the family, if that's really what we're going to be about. And they didn't like that. They didn't want to hear that part of the conversation. To me, that's another example of, like, a convincing argument. Because again, like, some Christians, they see things differently in a more modern age. There are a lot of Christians who see the Bible as something that can be updated to fit with modern culture.
Yeah, but you can't use the Bible in your religion to make law. That's exactly. Point blank and period.
And we agree with
and
that.
That's all that anti-abortion. When they say it's murder, they go straight to the Bible, and that's like their only. That's their only place to hide, or their only place to, I don't know what's the right word. Refuge. Yeah, there you go. I always get refuse and refuge mixed up in my stupid brain for whatever reason. But yeah, you cannot use your faith to drive policy. It's wrong.
I agree with that to some extent, because I've always said that, like, your belief should not impede on others' rights, because, again, we are a free nation. Again, that also applies differently with you living in Europe. I don't know necessarily what the situation is there.
It's freer. It's probably freer here than it is in the States,
and
honestly.
Arguably so, because obviously I haven't been to Finland, unless you want to buy me a ticket. But I just, but I feel like that goes all ways, because, a lot of people think that mostly happens with Christians, and obviously the Christian party has been very oppressive to a lot of people. And I'm very vocal.
What is the Christian party? What?
Well, like, when I say, like, American conservative Christians of, like, that, what you expect, the stereotypical Southern Baptist, very brimstone and fire. And, like, there are a lot of people who are critical of them, but what they don't realize is that, like, they're completely fine with, say, Muslims threatening suicide bombing against people who depict Muhammad, for example, even though that's the deliberate terrorism and against free speech. So, and I feel like, people ignore those kind of aspects to fit their agenda, and, like, even there are examples of militant atheists. If you remember, a long time ago, there was an atheist organization who wanted to take down a cross at the 9/11 memorial because it was supposedly pushing, like, the faith agenda. But the truth is, like, if people see that cross up there and it gives them a sign of hope, what harm necessarily is there in that if they see that,
I personally don't give a rat's ass, but if they're going to try to put the 10 Commandments up at every courthouse in the country and force kids to pray in school, then why can't atheist organizations go the same route with the law? It's fair game.
I agree with that. I just, like, but I feel like that they shouldn't the same way that Christians shouldn't force their beliefs upon others, atheists shouldn't sit here and be so vindictive on Christians as well. Like there is that middle ground where I think that true centrism, true compromise, should be met. You know, because when people think about centrism again as like this indecisive thing, I think of it more as an issue of listening to all aspects and making a decision. Now, there are indecisive people, but I lost my train of thought, god damn it. With centrism, I feel like that again, it's another one of those aspects where like people are worried if they don't fully agree with 100% of their political beliefs, they don't want to compromise in any aspect, and that sets a serious a bad precedent, that in a way people choose to like separate themselves from that. They only want to be in these echo chambers, these hive minds, and they don't want to listen to other people's perspective.
Okay.
And you really think there's no problem with that?
People can pick and choose who they want to be friends with. You know,
I agree with that. Like, I'm not. If
you seriously are making the argument right now that a little bit of centrism is going to help, like for example, the United States out of the political circus it finds itself in every 4 goddamn years, and I got a bridge to sell you.
Plant an acorn, grow an oak tree. I mean, like a little bit goes a long way too on certain issues. Like I feel like, especially when the whole Trump-Clinton campaign was going on, you know, we talked about how third-party voting was going to be at its highest voting rating, and it didn't get high enough to where it would permanently be on the ballots. But like a lot of people thought that third-party voting is completely useless, but in a way, you know, much like the economy, much like religion, if you believe in it, it's real. So with third-party voting, as long as they find shall we say, a capable candidate, third-party voting is possible, you know?
Yeah, Bernie should have ran third party. He absolutely should have run third party. He should have stayed independent.
Because, you know, a lot of people want to vote for Bernie, but Bernie is actually loyal to the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party snubs him every year. You know, people.
Yeah, because that's where the money is, and that's where that's the biggest problem that is facing and plaguing the U.S. in politics is all of the fucking money, and the fact that Bernie Sanders has to reduce himself to being a part of a party that has time and time again shown that they don't give the first fuck about him is just it's ridiculous. But you know, running as a third party has been shown time and time again in the U.S. You're either just you're a spoiler or you're just a goofball, but mostly a spoiler. And you know, I guess I can't think of an election where a third party, maybe Bush v. Gore, where you know some of Nader's votes could have helped Gore out, but the Supreme Court decided that election anyway, and it was a fucking sham. So yeah, you know, but.
Honestly, it's just personally, I feel like third-party voting would be at least... I don't understand why people have so much faith in the two-party system in the first place, because, like, why should we have to narrow it down to 2 people? But then they don't want to vote third-party. That's where I feel the hypocrisy is, because they want limited options, clearly, but they complain about it. So, like, for me, example, when I voted third-party, I personally voted for Gary Johnson. But I said to myself, I know he's not going to win, and so by voting, everyone tells me you have to vote or you don't have a right to complain. I voted. I can complain about the result either way, you know.
That's not even worth arguing about, though. When people say, "Oh, if you don't vote, you have no right to complain," it's like look at the choices that you got in 2016. Look at the choices you got in 2020. You know, whether you voted first party, second party, third party, whether you voted for the dude who wears a boot on his head, you weren't getting anything.
I think his name is
you were Supreme Vermin. Yeah, you know, like, yeah, it is pretty sad that it still is pretty much the Democrat and Republican show in the United States, but that's incumbent upon the people to do something about it. That is not anything that's going to change overnight. I don't think it'll even change in my lifetime, honestly. Maybe. I don't know.
It's definitely. I think it's definitely possible, but again, it's another one of those contradictions where I feel like that people need to be more open to making other decisions. They shouldn't have to like completely consolidate themselves into one specific party and go with all these itemized list of beliefs and opinions. Because, like, you know, and that's the other thing is, like, when people act like that, it pushes them away in that aspect. And that I feel like that's what you've done with a lot of your older fans when you did those kind of videos. I really feel like you handled the Trump situation particularly wrong in that aspect, like when you just shoved people away like that. And
yeah, there was going to be no quarter for Trump supporters, like from the very beginning, going back to 2015.
Yeah. I mean, even back in 2011, 2012, you were critical of Trump when he was trying to run against Obama for second term before Romney got voted.
Because even back then he was a crazy fucking lunatic. Like,
I'm not disagreeing with you. Now, I will say this. Like, the thing is, people think I'm a centrist because I choose to not label myself politically. I've been told this before, and I tell people this all the time, though. If someone held a gun to my head and told me I had to choose a political party, I would choose centrist. And then I'd be shot because they couldn't comrade me into their group. That's how I feel like a lot of strict parties
feel about that. That's a little extreme, but okay.
Well, that's how I feel like a lot of people treat centrists in the first place. You know, people who choose to look at all aspects.
Are you going to victimize your centrism?
I'm not victimizing myself when I say that.
A little bit. You just said if someone held a gun to your head and told you to choose, they'd shoot you because you chose to not take a side. But if that is the scenario you put forward, that you have to choose or else you get shot, and you don't choose, what do you expect? That doesn't make any sense.
No, and that's exactly what I'm saying. And that, to me, that's not victimizing. Victimizing would be like, oh, poor me, you know. And I'm not saying that when I say it. It's just that it's, to me, a realization of how people who are so set in their political aspect treat others that way. And I just feel like there could be better open compromise and better discussion if people would just willingly accept other opinions. You know,
it all depends on what it's about. If you're pro, okay, like you brought up some examples earlier, that there are just a lot of things that I absolutely cannot give quarter and cannot tolerate. Like if somebody is pro-life in any way, I can't see how I could possibly be their friend. Or if they are like pro-cop, or you know, how do I even? That's just me. And if people don't like that and they recognize that and they recognize in me that they don't want to be around that, okay. So that's the corner I've painted myself into. But
think of someone who was raised up. Let's say they had a police officer as a father figure, maybe, or a mother figure.
I don't care.
Women in the police.
I don't care. I know where you're going, and I already don't care.
John. That's what I'm saying. Is that you don't.
To you, that's my problem.
To a lot of people's problems. That's why this channel exists.
This channel exists because you want to archive my content.
Well, yes, but that's because a lot of people agree with your older content more than they agree.
I don't care. Opinions. Why should I care? Give me one good solitary reason why I should care.
I feel like you do care because you keep coming back. You come
to
here and you tell me to shitpost. Yes, but clearly you want a rise and a reaction out of people. Your videos get mass thumbed down all the time.
That's what shitposting is.
I don't get near as many negative reactions when I shitpost. To me, shitposting
I don't care what you get. I don't care what you do or what you say. And you brought me on here to talk about whatever it is that...
Right.
You and all these whoever's watching this can't seem to get over from years and years ago, you know.
Well, there are it's a lot of people. Like I would argue, like first of all, I've mentioned before that you had like 40,000 subscribers, even back when you had 20 to 30,000 at that period of YouTube. It's a very big feat. Okay, I'm not going to knock that. You did a very big thing, much like the Archfiend, by just sitting down and talking in front of a camera. Because, like, I know, but there are a lot of people who look to you and respected you as someone who spoke out differently and just said it as it was. But
and then I started speaking out too differently, like when I started talking about rape culture, and they jumped off the fucking wagon.
Yeah, what it is
no.
that you don't accept other.
I started talking
opinions.
about rape culture. So when I started talking about rape culture, and people were insisting time and time again, over and over, that there was no rape culture, and they unsubscribed from my channel, how are they being open to opinions? Everybody does it. That's the point. Everybody picks and chooses who they want in their circle. I am no different. The people who jumped off of my bandwagon for having an opinion about this or that or anything else, it's the same across the board. And you painting me out to be like so much different from all of these people because of that is just fucking hysterical.
Because like a lot of
it really is, because
who are exposed for like this are like they are the
media, dude. I had a channel on YouTube. I was just some guy who had opinions. I wasn't the news. I wasn't fucking Craft Nation.
People over the years.
So no. You tell me, how is it different? Hold on. You tell me, how is it different when I make a video saying that there's a rape culture in the United States and like 200 people just instantly unsubscribe from my channel? But then I go and I block somebody or I unfriend somebody from Facebook and they get all up in arms about it. Where's the difference?
And I'm not saying
I have to eat shit for it. Why do I have to eat shit for it? For people like you and from whoever the fuck else is here. What's the difference? John, why am I being taken to task? Give me one good reason.
John, the problem is you think that I disagree with you 100% on all kinds of issues when I really don't. When you say,
when did I ever say that? Don't put words in my mouth.
The way you behave, the way you act.
Don't put words in here.
Like, seriously.
Okay,
like
but there is literally zero difference.
When you first deleted me off of Facebook.
Can you accept that?
Accept what?
That there's no difference between somebody unsubscribing from me for disagreeing with a political opinion and me more or less unsubscribing from somebody's Facebook or their Instagram or their Twitter because I don't agree with their political position.
So first of all, I did say that, but now hearing it, I do want to say that that's again another instance of case by case, because what you're saying I could agree with. I do agree with, but I feel like I haven't seen that video specifically about rape culture. Obviously, I believe rape culture exists. I believe that it should be taken care of and dealt with, but it could be in other political opinions that other people have deleted you that you think weren't as big a deal, but to them, it was a big deal to them. Like how you remember I showed you that well, I didn't show you it. I got that comment of you on Archfiend's video, how you were saying, but my free speech, and how democracy and freedom of speech is overrated. Like, to a lot of people, that's a big deal. Like, because we here in America have our own First Amendment right to free speech.
A lot of people think it's a big deal. Cool. Why should I care? See how we just keep coming back to the same thing?
Okay.
Why should I care?
Because one little person who has, let's say, prejudices, racial, obviously, let's just straight up say they're racist, they're skinheads, okay? One little person who has that kind of negative attitude and thought, they all of a sudden speak, and then more and more people are influenced by that. Let me just say this too. Freedom of speech doesn't necessarily protect that kind of thing. There's a difference between freedom of speech and inciting violence. That's inciting violence. Freedom of speech is to people allowing them to speak their opinions on certain things.
Why are you talking to me as if I'm like some kind, like it's like you're explaining to me. You're like
you don't want people saying
you don't need to explain these things. Ideas. I'm not an imbecile. I don't know. You seem to get the idea that I don't know these things already, and you're like, it's like mansplaining just without
to the people watching, just in case. Obviously, they're smarter.
It's bewildering, actually.
I don't know. I live in bumfuck Tennessee, of course, so naturally, you know the people I have to deal with. So,
the
other thing about this
people?
What's that?
Were you judging people based on their location? No, I used to have to eat shit for that too.
Okay.
I used to have to eat shit for that too. So
I mean, I think it's like
all these things that everybody does. But when you're on YouTube and you have like a paltry number of subscribers like I did, it's like, oh, you're held to a higher standard. And I never felt that I should have been held to a higher standard. You do, and that's your opinion, but I don't feel like I should have been held to any higher of a standard than Joe Blow on Facebook.
Be held accountable for it. Because, like you've professed before, you have fanboys. You have people that linger onto your word back then.
And do you know how many people I physically removed as subscribers from my channel for going to other people's channels and saying bigoted, racist horse shit? When I felt like somebody was representing my channel in a shitty way, I took care of it, unlike some people.
Okay, but here's the other thing. Some of the stuff...
Would you remove fucking Damien Skyfire from your subscriber base for the shit that he says? I don't think so.
Well, first of all, like, Damien's problems with you are not my problems. Damien's problems are separate.
Skyfire, what a fucking...
Okay, sorry. No, it's just... I collected Transformers figures back then, so I'm not going to...
He's a lot of things, but yeah. But I was just making a point.
But here's the other thing. There are a lot of things that some people say that people with your ideologies may think are bigoted, when to them it's not bigoted. Like, I've had one coworker who straight up said to me that they think it is impossible to be racist to white people. And to me, like, I'm not saying this to say that, I'm oppressed. I'm not saying this to say that white people are
Here it
oppressed.
comes.
I'm saying that they can be oppressed. Because here's the thing.
Not on the basis of their skin color.
It is very possible on their skin color. I'll give you a deliberate example. Nick Cannon has a podcast where he has openly said that white people, because they lack the melanin in their skin, do not know the form of love and connection that black people do, and therefore they are savages. That's why they took over lands. That's why they invaded.
Okay.
That is
a stupid person
statement.
Said a stupid thing. Okay. What now? What's your point?
My point... God damn it, John. My point
are you getting frustrated because I'm holding you to defend your points? I mean, I'm supposed to have been the one that's...
Then it's another instance of people's opinions differ based on their political ideologies. If you're saying that this guy, you're defending this guy for saying one statement when he agrees with, say, everything else you agree with, then like you're going to defend him. But if one guy says something that you disagree with, then you're just going to completely cut him off.
Are you saying that I would ignore Nick Cannon if he had my same political ideologies, saying something as dumb as that?
Let's say someone you spoke with as a fan, right? Let's not even say they're friends, just a fan. You've spoken with them regularly for maybe a couple of months, and you agree with a lot of stuff they say. You think they're fine. But then they say that one thing that you don't agree with politically, and you're like, okay, it's over, cut them out. And
it's a case-by-case thing, like you said. Yes, it is a case-by-case thing. If they said something stupid, like that, but we have a bond that goes beyond politics, because politics is not the end-all, be-all of human interaction. If I have a bond with this... You let me finish my statement, sir. If I have a bond with this person that goes beyond politics and they say something heinous or even discriminatory, or I will see that, and maybe I'll try to take the time to inform them that, hey, maybe that's not so cool, and maybe we can have a discussion. But far too often, I did not have that sort of rapport with other people. I did not have that bond with other people. So just as it's a case-by-case basis with all this other stuff, for me, it is also a case-by-case basis. So you're trying to paint me as somebody who just tossed everybody to the curb who didn't agree with me, which is bullshit, by the way. You can't generalize.
I'm not saying
like
everybody,
that.
But a lot.
I didn't.
Like almost a majority.
I disagree with Archfiend. I've disagreed with him with plenty of shit over the years politically, and I never once thought of kicking him to the curb or kicking. I mean,
okay. And
but
what did you disagree with?
It's a case-by-case thing. With Justin,
yeah,
I just did not. He was just like really. I don't want to use the word creepy, but like all the brother stuff, and like I don't need to really. Yeah, it was just a little bit creepy to me, so I deleted him one day, and I guess it became a thing. But like I got taken to task for something that people do every single day. You don't want somebody in your life anymore. You don't have to absolutely have them. It's really that simple. And to characterize me as somebody who is capable of just like at the drop of a hat at any moment doing it to absolutely anybody at any time, it's wrong. Because you people out there, whoever may be watching this, you don't know my personal life. You don't know how I operate. You don't know the frequency that I operate on. between human beings and my personal life. You see me on YouTube and you think, oh, I know him. He's miserable. He's this, he's that. And whenever I see comments like that, it really it makes me chuckle, but at the same time, it kind of makes me wonder, like,
but
do these people, like, do they have a camera on me and they're seeing me at all times? Are they in my therapist's office? Are they, you know, like, how do they get the gall to say like these bombastic things about my personal life that absolutely aren't fucking true? And that's a big reason why I stopped talking about my personal life, because people out there are just, I give people way too much credit.
Well, there you go. But to me, again, I feel like the reason people think they knew you somewhat on that personal level is because you have opened up before cathartically in your videos talking about that kind of stuff, that you offer your opinions, your personal beliefs on that kind of stuff. That's probably why they think that about you. The way you've opened up, like, about things like previous exes, your abuse with your dad. I hate the fact that people joke
all
about
mistakes,
like Mitch did. Well,
yeah, and that's why
honestly,
they were mistakes,
yes no,
because idiots like Mitch and Flex and
it helps them, give them the tools that they need to get out of those situations. You know, it gives them hope.
Yeah, but these were just individual things, like anxiety, depression, shitty relationships. They're just individual things. You can't know me based on just a couple of things I'm volunteering to you.
Well, the other part about it is, okay, so I'm not saying that people can't pretend to be other people online, but would you not agree that, like, a lot of the times people show more of their true colors on outlets on the internet, when, especially when they may or may not be anonymous? Like, would you not say that they get their opinions out there more what they actually believe, because they can't, there are people in their area that don't tolerate what they truly believe?
Could you please reword that entire, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're asking.
Would you not agree that a lot of people online are more honest with themselves and their opinions than they are in real life, depending on the people they're around?
It depends. I can't make a general statement like that, because it's absolutely dependent on the person. There are some people who go online, like for example, Mitch. Do I think that Mitch would actually go up to people in his personal life? And by the way, I don't know if Mitch is watching. Mitch, he brought your name up first. I'm just using you as an example because I can't. Or Damien. We'll use Damien as an example. Do I think that Damien is that horrible of a person in real life? No, absolutely not. I think if you were to get him in a room and talk with him about whatever it is he's going through that makes him say the things he says, I would come to an understanding. But some people absolutely do feel like the internet gives them enough anonymity and enough of a safe environment to where they can be open enough to say whatever the fuck they want and not have to fear somebody throwing a Molotov through their window or something. It's entirely dependent. So no, I can't agree, because I can't generalize like that.
I mean, I honestly can say, again, it's safer to say that a majority of people do that, but that doesn't necessarily exclude the fact that people don't, because again, some people will pretend to be different online because that's just what they want to do. But at the same time, though, the reason people think that is because that is the majority of the case. And so when they see someone like you who makes these kind of videos, who makes those kind of posts publicly and openly about yourself, you kind of open yourself up to the world like that, you have a big audience, they'll make that assumption. You know, assumptions aren't, while they can be harmful when making decisions, at the same time, though, there's educated guesses based on the evidence that they see. And so, and it's not just in instances like that. I mean, again, there are a lot of people who it looks to me that you have completely disregarded, and you said before that you feel like that they've either been centrist or they've gone the opposite direction. But what about people like Melly, like Jennifer, like Danny Walsh, Danny the Metalhead, Brandon, Lachlan, Stout, Natalie? You know, these are people who I've met through you, through people who used to watch your videos. And
Natalie, who the fuck is Natalie?
Okay, well, I think Natalie was just someone I met her through like one of your live streams I attended.
Who are these? Okay, I recognize Stout. I recognize Lachlan. Lachlan was a tryhard that I didn't really want to like communicate with anymore. Stout.
Brandon is the
Stout. Oh,
dick guy.
Oh God, Brandon Smith. Oh my
He's
God,
left.
that kid.
He's left politically. He's even openly stated like he's a feminist and all this.
Yeah,
Like,
but Jesus, do you? Okay, like I could take you back to a time if you got the time. In 2012, I think it was, where it was me, Brandon Smith, and a few other people who I can't remember. We were all in a Skype call, and by the end of this Skype call, at first it was just like a bunch of shit talk and pandering, and then towards the end, like everything got real, like really, really fucking real, and people were crying and like I don't want to like volunteer any information on his behalf or anyone's behalf. I won't like say exactly what they were crying about, like just behavior that they weren't proud of. And I thought,
right.
wow, I am never going to have another moment this real as this right now. But that's what I remember him the most from. But before that, I saw Brandon Smith as a shit poster. But
And
like
it's not
like a
he
4chan
isn't,
kid,
so.
like yeah, like a B. I don't want to use that term anymore. A B person. I don't know if he does it anymore. I'm
A
sure he
secondary
doesn't.
character in
But
your story.
who are these other people you mentioned? Who are these other people
Well,
you mentioned?
Melly Misfit. She actually did
Melanie
one video
who?
in response